1 year ago today, I made a huge upgrade to my fence-mounted solar panels. I installed two 440-watt panels on this side of the garden. They were designed to catch the evening sun, and I installed a further two on this side of the garden designed to catch the morning sun. All of those panels were fed in to my EcoFlow Stream Ultra system. And today we've got 365 days worth of data. So I'm going to tell you exactly what it's like to live with it, how much it's generated, and more importantly, how much money has it put into my bank account. Okay, before we get started, let me be very clear and open and honest. These two units were provided by EcoFlow a year ago for long-term evaluation. Now, as with all products that I review on this channel, the manufacturer of the product has no say in what goes into the content. So, although they provided these units, everything you're about to hear are my own thoughts, and that goes for everything else that you see on this channel. Now, the other thing that I do, which I believe is slightly different from most other channels, is I don't do unboxing videos. I don't do, here's a thing that I've been sent for free, isn't it great? What I like to do is take products and run them for a minimum of 1 year. And I'll do a video at the beginning to say, hey, this is what it is, this is how it's plugged in. And then I will publish the data of exactly what these are generating, how much money they're saving me, and I publish it onto my website every single day of the year. And that means at any time, you can go across to my website at jonathantracy.com, click on the data visualization button at the top there, and you can see exactly how these have been performing. Now, for the last year, we've been gathering data, and we're going to get to that data towards the end of this video. So if you do want to jump to that video, I will put a timestamp in the video, and actually down below me now, I'll put a time marker. So if you do want to skip forward just to see the numbers, you're welcome to do that. But before we do that, let's talk about the units themselves and what they've been like to live with. Okay, so the two units you can see here are the EcoFlow Stream Ultra and the EcoFlow AC Pro. Now, they look superficially very, very similar. And in fact, with the exception of one feature, they are almost identical in every way. The only difference between the two is the Stream Ultra has the solar connections on the back here. So these are, there are four different, what we call MPPTs. These allow you to connect up 4 different solar arrays. In my case, I have 1 panel per input. And that means that any panels, doesn't matter if one's in shade, one's not, every panel will get the maximum out of it. Now, one question that comes up a lot is, shouldn't you put your panels at an angle rather than hang them on the fence? Well, yes, that would be in an ideal scenario. If I had the space, I would absolutely angle them out. But I'm bordering on that line with the CFO as to exactly how much garden space I'm taking up. So having them flat against the fence means they're unobtrusive, and I know they could generate so much more. But that's the orientation we've chosen, and that's what we've had for the last year. Now, as I say, all 4 panels go into this unit. The AC Pro is an add-on battery. So you'll notice on the back here, there are no solar inputs. And that is because this unit connects to this unit to increase the battery capacity of this unit from 1.92 kilowatt hours, and we added further 1.92 kilowatt hours. So let's just keep the numbers simple. 2 kilowatts, 2 kilowatts, put them together. We have a 4 kilowatt hour battery system with 4 solar inputs, and that's what we've been running for the last 12 months. So what have they been like to live with? Well, to be totally honest, hardly noticed they're there. One of the nice features about these is they don't have any fans. So when they're installed in my office, there's no noise from them whatsoever. You hear the occasional click when the relay clicks over from it storing energy to supplying energy, but totally unobtrusive. If you had these in your house, you'd hardly notice that they were there. They do need some airflow. So obviously with heat sinks on the back here, you need some way for air to get up and then escape as it comes out the top, as it, with warmer air as it rises up over the top here. So one other thing that I do with these systems is you'll notice on the top here we have some UK plug sockets. My entire office connects through these systems. And that means essentially we have a UPS with a 4 kilowatt hour battery if they're fully charged. And that means that if the power were to go down, we'd have a slight interruption in power. None of the computers in my office know anything about it. They just carry on running as normal. My Home Assistant server, my NAS, everything just stays up and running. And that means that we don't have to worry about the odd little flick in power that we get out here in East Anglia. If we get a day with a storm, we might get one to two second interruptions in power. And these just mean everything keeps on running. The Wi-Fi stays up, the NAS keeps running, nobody really notices what's happening. So how do I actually use these? Because most people who have been on around the channel for a while will know I have a lot of batteries. These form part of a system. And in the garage behind me, I have my large solar edge inverter with about 27 kilowatt hours of battery storage attached to that. That is my main battery storage for the house. That runs everything during the day, and at this time of the year, when I'm on the flux tariff, we store all the energy during the day and then we export it in the peak period for the maximum return. But these form a different role. I use these to supplement baseload when it's needed the most. When people are at home, when people are cooking dinner, when we're doing things around the house where we might use a bit more energy. So I have these configured to sit all day long and just store all that excess solar energy in the battery. And then at those peak periods, I set a base load. And in my case, it's about 450 watts. So at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, these come on and they start supplying 450 watts just continuously into the house for about a 4-hour period. Now, they'll continue to run for that 4-hour period, or if there's not enough in the batteries, they will do as much as they possibly can before they run out. But that means that the big batteries in there can save all that energy to export during that peak period to make the maximum possible return. So a lot of people ask, is there any conflict between the two? If you have a plug-in system and a main solar system, do they fight with each other? In my case, absolutely not. Now, there is a scenario with these where you can use the optional, either the EcoFlow or the Shelly smart meter, where you can put a CT clamp around your incoming electricity supply. And in that case, where both systems are trying to supply demand at the same time, they can get into what's called a race condition. So one of them tries to supply, the other one ramps up and then realizes it doesn't need to supply and it ramps back down again. So to try and avoid that, that's why I go with a timed release of energy. So that's why it's set for 4 o'clock in the afternoon, start discharging at a solid 450 watts. So who should buy this system? Well, let's just take a moment there, because this system, like I say, is about 2 years old now. The product has been around for about 2 years. I've owned this particular one for just over a year. And EcoFlow have just announced the successor to this. They've got the Stream 5000 and the AC 5000. And these are 5 kilowatt versions. So they look a little different, but they basically have the same functionality, but a 5 kilowatt hour battery in them. So instead of buying 2 of these, you could buy 1 of those. Now, the products are announced, but not yet generally available. There doesn't seem to be a date on the website, but I'd expect certainly later as we get into the autumn, those products to become available. But that doesn't mean that these are going away. And these are now tried, tested, proven that they work. So I think if I was investing my money right now, I'd still be tempted to go with an Ultra or even an Ultra XL. So there is a second version of this, if you think of it as a slightly fatter version that combines both of these into one unit. And there you get 4 kilowatt battery, 4 solar inputs, all in one box. It's called the Ultra XL, I believe. I'll double check that. If not, there'll be a correction on the screen below. But I've had absolutely no issues with these. Now, when these first launched with version 1 software, and any software that is version 1.0.0, you should always be slightly cautious of. I had one issue on one day where the unit disconnected from Wi-Fi. And it was really simple. I basically came in, powered it on, powered it off, went back into the app, re-added the Wi-Fi, and it has been faultless since then. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. And I've kind of forgotten that it was there most days. It just does its thing, and I don't have to nanny it. I don't have to keep going into the app every 5 minutes to see what it's doing. It just does its thing. It feeds its data into my Home Assistant setup, and from Home Assistant, I then take that and publish it to my web dashboards. So why did I build this fence-mounted monstrosity that you see behind me? Well, one, I've got a lot of time on my hands. But more importantly, I wanted to see if you could build a system that would actually be useful, would actually save you money, and you could do it if you lived in a rental property. Now, I'm sure everyone that's thinking about having solar would love to put panels up on the roof or on the roof of their garage like I've got up there and generate a lot more electricity than a system like this will even be capable of doing. But if you're in a rental property or in a block of flats, you might not be able to do that. So the reason I mounted the panels vertically was I had the fence space to do it. The sun happens to be tracked quite conveniently, so morning and evening sun. And I wanted to see if you could set up a system that is completely non-destructive. These panels are just hanging on the fence. They have hooks on the top, they slot over the top of the fence, and they just hang down on the fence. And then the cables run into my office, into the back of the system, in fact, into the back of this system. And that's it. If we were to move house, we could pack all of this up in less than an hour, put it on the truck and take it to wherever we were going to. Now, if you lived in a flat, you might not have a garden, but you could hang one of these panels on a balcony, hang it over the rails, just like a lot of people in Germany do, and it would work just as well. So that was the objective of the exercise, was to see if it's possible, would it generate meaningful amounts of electricity, and what would it be like to live with? Because if you're in a relatively small flat, you probably don't have space for the 27 kilowatt hours of solar age batteries I've got in there, but you might be able to fit a couple of these into a cupboard. So let's answer the question that probably most people came to this video to see is, what did it actually generate? Okay, so if you head over to my website, to jonathantracy.com, you can follow along with this. At the top of there, you'll see a button that says data visualization. If you click on that, you'll see it brings you down to 4 different options. If you click across to long-term evaluations, you'll see the current projects that I have ongoing. And on the left-hand side there, the EcoFlow stream, if you click the button that says Open Dashboard, it will take you to the dashboard. Now, again, if I just scroll down, there's a little bit about the system there, full disclosure details of the fact that EcoFlow sponsored these units. And then we get to the headline figures. So in the first box there, the total savings, you'll see underneath we have 365 days since installation, and it has saved £335.13. Now, I want you to think of that number as the absolute minimum that this system could generate, because the orientation of the panels in that vertical orientation means that they are at the sort of, well, other than laying them down flat so the sun can't see them, they're probably in the worst orientation you can put them in. So this should be the minimum number that you'd be able to get from a system like this. Then I break it down into 2 parts. There's arbitrage savings, that's putting power into the batteries and then using it later on to save buying from the grid. And then there's solar savings, so that's free energy that we got from the sun through the solar panels into the batteries. And then on the right-hand side, the total ROI. So right now, in 1 year, we've paid 16% of the value of these systems from the total. Now, as I said, EcoFlow provided these no cost to me, but I did buy the panels and all the cabling and everything else to go with them. That total system, if I'd have paid for these as well, would have been about £2,100. So at the time, prices change from time to time, but about £1,000 for this and about £800 for this. So if we scroll down, you can actually see, if we go back to 2025, we installed it just at the back end of July there. Okay, one thing you'll notice here is that as we go through the years, we go from July, August, September, the amount of solar, the orange part of the bar that you see, gets less and less, and the green bar gets more. And that's because in the winter, I charge these from the grid overnight. Now, during the winter, I would be on a tariff like Octopus Intelligent Go, and then during the 11:30 till 5:30 in the morning, I would grid charge these so I could discharge them later in the day. If I jump forward to 2026, you'll see the chart reverses itself. So as we come out of the winter, the solar gets more and more, and then the green parts on the top, the battery arbitrage gets less. Now, one interesting thing to see here is, notice the shape of the chart. We get to April and it peaks, and then as we get into May, June and July, it starts to drop down. And that's what you'd fully expect with vertically mounted panels. The optimal time is when the sun is striking at exactly the right angle. And that generally happens in May and in August. And again, if I just drop back there, you'll see August, we had a peak, In fact, there's a better way to see that. If I go there, you'll see that's when our peaks are. So we have a sort of a W-shaped graph for the whole year. So again, clicking forward onto the ROI tab, and now there's multiple tabs on this dashboard. You can go to savings, so you can see exactly how much. And again, you can tap on any month and you can drill down to individual days if you want to see how it's performing on each individual day. And again, the data for this gets updated automatically every single day. I think it happens at about 5 o'clock in the morning. So there'll be new bars every single day. We can go to net if you're just interested in the money. If you want to see the mix, that is how much between solar and battery charging. Now, I should say at this time of the year, you'd probably think, why are you charging the battery in July? Well, I'm not charging it from the grid. What I'm doing is when my batteries in there are full and everything else that needs power has used it, we've charged the EVs, the hot tub is up to temperature, is rather than export for 10 pence per kilowatt hour, is I store the power in these. So I will turn these on and charge them from the sort of AC coupled solar power heading into these batteries. Flow just shows the input and output, and then the ROI tab shows exactly where we are with getting our money back. So as I say, you should take this as the minimum a system like this will generate. We have about 5 years until we get to a break-even point. And, you know, that's not unreasonable. A roof-mounted solar system is usually 6 to about 9 years, depending on the size of the system. We've already used 1 year, so to get our money back in about 6 years, I think is a pretty reasonable ROI. But if you want to follow along, this project isn't going to end today just because we've reached 365 days. But if you want to follow along, come back. I wouldn't come back every single day. You bore yourself silly. But check in once a month and you can see exactly how the system is performing. Now, if you have any questions at all about this, I'm happy to answer them. Please do pop a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer as many of them as I possibly can. With that, it just remains for me to say, if you're thinking about getting a system like this, if I can ask one favor, this is a YouTube channel. It does have to sustain itself. Down below, you'll find some links to my Amazon storefront. If you are thinking of buying something like this or anything on Amazon, just clicking through those links really does help the channel out. With that, I'm going to sign off. I hope you found this look at 1 year of owning these systems useful. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.